You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, and welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. As some say, the unofficial football podcast of the North. Big week for Canada soccer, as I feel like I say a lot of weeks, because the last couple weeks it feels like it has been some pretty big weeks, whether it's transfer news, teams back in action, debuts, great performances. A lot of our guys are out there doing some pretty good stuff right now, and you've come to the right place if you want to hear about it. So let's start off with our first story here. Are the Vancouver Whitecaps leaving Vancouver? I don't have an answer for you. So there's that. But I can tell you some of the things that Axel Schuster did say. I'm just going to pull up the quotes here real quick. So some of the things he said in a press conference over this past week were more than 30, almost 40 groups have signed NDAs and analyzed the situation. Not one single one is interested in buying even 1% of this club, because all of them think that our setup here, the market, and the situation we are in is not something you can invest in as long as things don't change. The current structure makes it extraordinarily difficult for Whitecaps FC to operate sustainably, regardless of our on-field success, record attendance numbers, or BC Place's willingness to help with the boundaries they face. On our side, it feels that things have come to an end. I would say the challenges we have and that we have raised cannot be addressed in a way that really improves our situation in a meaningful way. So it was time to be transparent and share with everyone, where do we play these games? Another quote here. We appreciate the continued effort of the provincial government and BC Place under challenging economic conditions. However, unfortunately, our gap between being top 7 in attendance and last in revenue is so significant that this effort alone isn't the game changer that is needed for long-term sustainability. We are committed to working collaboratively to identify solutions that ensure the long-term home of Whitecaps FC in Vancouver. So, what does Sam think of that? Sam thinks that that's not a good sign, for sure. The Whitecaps have been rumored for the last couple of years to maybe be on their way out of Vancouver, definitely out of BC Place. I remember there was rumors swirling earlier this year, maybe late last year, that the Whitecaps would be getting a new stadium. I guess that's not happening, given some of the quotes there of investors not really wanting to invest at the moment. So I also think that the situation is pretty young, I guess, in its infancy, we could say. It's unclear of if, when, who will take the Whitecaps where. We have all the who, what, when, where, why, and hows going on right now. So I think if you're a Whitecaps fan, I guess I'd be a bit nervous, because obviously you don't want to lose your team. The Whitecaps have been in Vancouver forever. So, I really hope that they don't lose that team, especially because, once again, we don't have many MLS Canadian teams. We only have the 3. So the more the merrier, in my opinion. But yeah, those comments definitely don't strike me with confidence that the Whitecaps will be there long term, which, as I said, I do think is a shame. But of course, we don't know the whole situation. We don't know if someone's going to come in at the 11th hour. Another thing, I don't know how urgent this is. I don't know if, come the end of this season, they're done. Whitecaps are gone from Vancouver. There's just too many things of we don't know just yet. And I think that's what's frustrating for what I would say probably a lot of fans, a lot of Canadian soccer fans who just want to see Canadian teams do well. I do think that it is, though, not a great situation, as one could probably imagine. But yeah, hopefully that things do get sorted out. We've seen this in soccer, football around the world before, where, clubs may look like they're on, I don't want to say last legs, but could be moving somewhere and someone ends up coming in and saving them. So we'll just have to wait and see. This is very much a time will tell situation, which of course doesn't help anybody at the moment, especially once again, if you're a Whitecaps fan. But on the bright side, there was nothing in there to be like, we are 100% gone. So we'll look half glass full kind of thing, I suppose. So moving away from the Whitecaps, a little bit of transfer news. As for the European transfer window, there was, of course, the deadline day. So actually, only two of these people, only two of these transfers pertain to the European deadline day. But regardless, there were some transfers over this last week. One that was made official that has been rumored for a little bit. Stefan Estacio is heading to LAFC on loan with a buy option of $7 million. That one is per Matthew Shinetti, and then of course confirmed by clubs and player involved. I feel torn about this one, to be honest with you. As I kind of listed out in the last episode, so I won't try to take up too much time on this one, but I will still let my feelings be known on it. On one hand, the positive hand, we'll say this is the positive hand, he needs to play, and I do think that he will basically start any game he's available to for LAFC. That's a positive. He hasn't been playing with Porto for the last little bit, and I think that's a shame because I think that he is quality, and I still don't understand why he was not being used, but regardless, we won't get into that. Positive for him as well. I guess he's closer to home in a sense. I guess LA is... I assume the flight from LA to Canada isn't too long. I've never done it, but I'd figure it's not that long. And he gets to play with some Canadian teammates, whether it's Mathieu Choinière, Jacob Schaffelberg, and then Ryan Raposo, as we know, just re-signed for LAFC. So there's some Canadian connections there too. Some very good players, of course, Heung-min Son, Hugo Lloris. It's not the worst spot to end up. But on the other hand, we'll call this my negative hand, I just think that he is of a level higher than the MLS. And I say this once again, as I said last week, I'm someone that supports the MLS. I like the MLS. I think it's a great spot for guys to play, make a career. We've seen Canadians thrive in the MLS. I mean, look at Jonathan Osorio, Richie Larea. Those are just TFC. Then, of course, what Jay Nelson did last year, Ali Ahmed before he just left for Norwich, Mathieu Choinière, even his teammate, Jacob Schaffelberg, Joel Waterman, Samuel Piette. The list goes on. Like, guys have made very good careers in the MLS. So it's not me going, the MLS, that's a bad league. My problem is it feels like he has more to give in European football. As I said a couple podcasts ago, I think he could do a real good job in Italy. I just think that play style really suits him. Possession-based, defensively minded, controls a tempo. He could really do really well in Italy. Even maybe somewhere in Germany or somewhere in Spain. I know Celta Vigo was rumored to be kicking tires on Stefan Estacio. I just think that it feels too early in his career to be making the MLS switch. But, of course, at the end of the day, player has to do what is best for him. And if this means that he's going to play more and he likes the project, all that kind of stuff, then fair enough. I think that there is worse landing spots, don't get me wrong. But I do think in the end you kind of look, or at least me, I kind of look and go, oh, man, I just feel like he could have still stayed in Europe. But, of course, we're not in the rooms. We don't know what's going on. All that fun stuff. So that's my feelings on the Stefan Estacio transfer to LAFC. Not the best, not the worst. Just kind of, it could have been better, but I guess there are worse spots to land. So yeah, I just think it's a shame that he's leaving Europe at the age of 28, which still feels like a bit more to give overseas. I like how I said I wouldn't take up too much time on the Stefan Estacio transfer, and then it ended up being like 3 minutes. 4 minutes, I think. I don't know. Looking at the time, I think it was 4 minutes about. Sorry. But anyways, more transfer news. Ishmael Kone to Sassuolo has been made permanent. Sassuolo triggered the buy option in the contract from Marseille. Kone is done with Marseille. Thank everyone. Very happy about this. One, Sassuolo has been a great spot for Kone. He's looked phenomenal in the Serie A. Really, really has done just superb there. Helped rebuild his reputation, rebuild his career following, a bit of a debacle with Marseille last season. And he's just looked good too. Like, his consistency has been the best, in my opinion, in his whole career so far. So really happy about this one. Not surprised. I mean, everyone at Marseille must have been going, how quickly can we trigger this buy option? Probably about a couple weeks into that loan spell, he was looking so good. I do think it might not be a long stay permanently at Sassuolo, because I think he might have a good World Cup. And as we know, the World Cup brings a lot of eyes to it, and then thus a lot of transfers coming out of the World Cup. I mean, just ask Ismail Kone from last World Cup when he went from Montreal to Watford. So yeah, really, really happy for Kone. I do think that this is a very good move for him. And if he continues on this trajectory, I do think that he can only continue to get better and continue to find, maybe another club, another step up. But hey, if he wants to stay at Sassuolo, I don't think that's the worst spot in the world for him. Elsewhere, Junior Hoylett to Swindon Town. This one kind of came out of nowhere on deadline day. There was really, at least from what I was following, no murmurs of Junior Hoylett leaving Hibs and leaving Scotland. And then on deadline day, it was just, oh, hey, by the way, Hoylett joined Swindon. Okay, I guess. Yeah, sure, why not? Junior Hoylett, no stranger to being in England, of course. Spent a lot of his career with QPR. And then I know Cardiff is technically in Wales, but still in the English setup for the league. So is no stranger to playing in the English leagues, we'll say. And of course, I think he did pretty well at Hibs. Of course, his play time had gone down this season, getting a little bit up there as Junior Hoylett. So not surprising to see that play time get reduced a little bit this season, but a little bit of a surprise to just see him leave on deadline day to really no reports, no rumors, no nothing. My thing with this is that a nail in the coffin of his World Cup hopes? We do know that Junior Hoylett's no longer a regular call-up for Jesse Marsch and for the national team, but I still think, as some people do, that there is still a spot for Junior Hoylett in the Canadian men's national team setup. But when you're playing in the fourth tier of England, is that going to be enough to get you that spot? And hey, maybe that's not even on his right. Maybe Jesse Marsch has already told him, you're not, I don't think we're going to bring you, Junior, would have you. I don't know. I'm not in the room for these conversations. But yeah, just as a fan, I go, is he not going to the World Cup then? I don't know. We'll see in about May or June whenever the squad gets announced. But moving into our next transfer one, Jacquille Marshall-Rutty. This one comes per Tom Bogart. Apparently, the New York Red Bulls are finalizing a deal for Jacquille Marshall-Rutty that would take him out of Montreal. Jacquille Marshall-Rutty had a pretty good loan spell with Charlotte last season. And then, of course, he's been around the league for many, many years, whether it was coming through TFC, then his stint in Montreal, and then his stint in Charlotte. So I think that this could be good for Marshall-Rutty. Obviously, after everything that happened in Montreal, I don't blame him for wanting to get out, but I would be interested to see kind of what his plan is going forward, if he wants to stay with the Red Bulls or if this is like a stepping stone move to try to maybe get a European move. As we know, Jacquille Marshall-Rutty has trialed in Europe in the past, and there have always been rumors about European sides wanting Jacquille Marshall-Rutty. So I wonder if maybe this is the last pit stop before he goes to Europe, or if this is a long-term kind of play. Maybe he's just going to stay with the Red Bulls for a little bit, continue to develop, and then whatever happens. I don't know, but regardless, I think it's a good move for him. Definitely good for him to get out of Montreal after what happened. And then, of course, Red Bulls, they're not a bad side. They're a pretty good establishment, too, to play for. And, hey, maybe we could see him playing for – who are some of the Red Bull clubs right now? We got RB Leipzig, Salzburg, and then Leeds are sponsored by Red Bull. So, hey, maybe we could see Jacquille Marshall-Rutty playing for any one of those three teams in the near future. But, yeah, I think that this could be a good move for him. Elsewhere, Temi Antonoglu, formerly of Valor. Of course, Valor sadly did fold. He, in my opinion, was one of the hottest free agents in the CPL after that. And the fact that no CPL team got him is pretty surprising. In my humble opinion, I think he's the best left back, was the best left back in the league. Of course, can't say that anymore because he no longer plays in the league, because he is going to the USL with Las Vegas Lights FC. I think this is a good get for them. I can't say I follow the USL super closely. I follow some of the Canadian guys that play in the USL, but I don't really know how good Las Vegas are, or, some of their top players and whatnot. But regardless, I'm just happy that post-folding of Valor that some of their players are starting to land on their feet, get transfers somewhere. I think it's good. It would be a shame to see these guys just be done, and hopefully the guys that haven't signed contracts with teams, hopefully those are coming, because I do think there were a lot of talented players at Valor, and of course staff and everything else. Hopefully that everybody can land on their feet following the Valor folding. But yeah, Antonoglu, really happy for him. Definitely would have been a shame if no one picked him up. As I said, just pretty shocked that CPL teams didn't pick him up. But regardless, two players that I'm shocked no CPL teams picked up. Jacen Russell-Rowe, formerly of Forge FC, the goalkeeper of the year last year in the league, has found his way to the USL as well with Birmingham Legion. Once again, not going to lie to you, don't know a whole ton about Birmingham Legion in the USL, but I guess Jacen Russell-Rowe felt he didn't, or maybe Forge, whoever, didn't want to stay with one another. And then, of course, now his contract did come up at the end of last season, and I guess free agent, he was most likely, shop himself around, seeing what was good, and obviously Birmingham Legion were good. So I hope he does very well. Had a pretty good season with Forge last year, and yeah, I think that they've got themselves a pretty decent goalkeeper. Another goalkeeper that left Forge, Christopher Colungo, will be playing for TFC2. I'm happy about this. I'm a big fan of Chris Colungo. I think he's got loads of potential. It was a shame that he didn't really play last season at all for Forge. I think that he is a very good goalkeeper. Another one I'm pretty surprised no CPL team decided to take a punt on, because he's, in my opinion, pretty well CPL proven, still pretty young, still has a high ceiling. So I'm glad that TFC2 did, because immediately you kind of go, okay, well, there's a clear track to maybe a TFC, or, maybe elsewhere in the MLS, or another, next generation, as they call them, team like your TFC2s and whatnot. So yeah, happy for Chris Colungo. I think that this is a good move for him. I hope he does very well. As I said, I think that there is a goalkeeper there. So hope nothing but the best for him with TFC2 and all these transfers that happened. I think that there's some very exciting transfers here. So yeah, I think it's a shame that no CPL teams took a punt on him though. Moving into some performance-based segments, I guess. Firstly, starting off with Ethan Schilte-Brown in the Scottish Premiership. Over this past week, he was named in the Scottish Premiership Team of the Week, and that's a pretty big deal. Kilmarnock aren't doing the best right now in the Premiership. They're currently sitting second last in the league, but one of the bright spots this season for them has been the young Canadian center back, Ethan Schilte-Brown. He's enjoyed quite the breakout season, looking very positive, gaining a lot of acclaim from fans. Obviously, the League being named in the Team of the Week. So he's doing quite well. Definitely, I think, one to watch for the future, if you ask me. I don't think Jesse Marsh will be wanting to integrate him too much right before the World Cup. Maybe he might. I don't know. But definitely one that, if I was Marsh or the Canadian head coach, definitely one I would be trying to get into and integrated with the camp as soon as I could, maybe right after the World Cup. And hey, if you think he's ready, maybe right before the World Cup. Definitely a center back to watch for the future, up there with Dufugerel and Knight LaBelle as two young, exciting, well, he makes three young Canadian center backs to watch for Canadian fans. So definitely keep an eye on Schilte-Brown with Kilmarnock in the Scottish Premiership. Elsewhere, speaking of the British Isle, let's talk about some of our boys in the English Championship. Cyle Larin made his debut for Southampton, the Saints, over the weekend in a 1-0 win against Watford, and that 1-0 win was courtesy of Cyle Larin. With one of his first touches for Southampton, he scored. It doesn't get really much better than that. He got man of the match as well. So yeah, very good debut for Cyle Larin. Came off the bench, grabbed a goal, probably ate some chicken shawarma too, because what I love is that Southampton fans have found out that Cyle Larin did that shawarma ad for Canada and Osmos, and they find it amazing. And the Southampton account, the official account, even tweeted out something along the lines of anyone craving chicken shawarma right now after Larin scored. And I just thought that was really, really funny because it is an iconic Canadian commercial. But yeah, Cyle Larin, this is the start he needed. He needed to basically immediately make an impact following a not great loan spell with Feyenoord. And especially given that his World Cup hopes might be a little bit in jeopardy. Maybe. I hope they're not. And I know some people will disagree with that. But I would like to see him at the World Cup so long as he continues this form. And yeah, I just think he's got something still to give for the team, as I always say about Cyle Larin. And obviously, I think we might see it at Southampton if his debut is any indication. Elsewhere in the championship, Hull, as you well know, the Liam Miller hive is always buzzing, but the Liam Miller hive is buzzing a little bit less right now because Hull moved from 3rd to 4th in the table following a 0-0 draw with Watford early last week and then a 3-2 loss to Bristol City. For what it's worth, Liam Miller played the final 15 against Watford and the entire second half against Bristol. They are still very much in the playoff promotion race. I just think it kind of sucks that they're moving down instead of up because obviously automatic promotion is better than having to do the playoffs. Although the playoffs are extremely entertaining to watch and some of my favorite things to watch as a neutral. But as a Liam Miller fan, I would prefer that his team just get immediately promoted because I don't think my stress levels can handle a Liam Miller playoff run. But regardless, Hull very much still. This isn't like oh my gosh, Hull are slipping. I think it's just a couple of not great games, and I do think that we'll probably see them bounce back from this. And they do this Friday have Chelsea in the FA Cup, so that'll be interesting. Liam Miller, if he plays, will be the best winger on the pitch, I think. And then elsewhere in the championship, Ali Ahmed's Norwich have moved up to 17th, moving up quite a bit following their, I was about to say summer arrivals, winter arrivals. Ali Ahmed, of course, included in that. They've had some good results recently, and also Leicester have been dealt a points deduction in the championship following some breach in rules and whatnot. But in essence, kind of helps out Norwich a little bit. So yeah, Ali Ahmed and the other new signings and now some points deductions looking like Norwich are kind of slowly creeping their way up the table. Currently 4 points safe of the drop as well, which is very good given that a couple weeks ago they were not. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing what the rest of Norwich's season looks like and how they're going to build from this if they do, knock on wood, stay up. Elsewhere in the championship, Jebuson's Preston sitting in 7th, currently being kept out of the playoff spots by goal difference by Wrexham. So still in that hunt are Preston. So that is very good for Jebuson especially. So yeah, although he didn't play over the weekend, I couldn't find any injury reports or anything. But yeah, he wasn't in the matchday squad. And I bring this up because he played a full 90 against Ipswich just the game prior. So it's not like, oh, Daniel Jebuson's not being used. He's not playing. I'm going to assume maybe unless there was a suspension or an injury, nothing I could find. But yeah, hopefully nothing serious at least. Elsewhere in England, this time coming in the form of Swindon, as we kind of talked about, Junior Hoylett has made the move to Swindon. So he also naturally made his debut, and in Junior Hoylett fashion, did what Junior Hoylett does and grabbed an assist in a 3-0 win versus Oldham. In Ligue 1, Jacen Russell-Rowe also wasted little time making his debut for Toulouse in a loss, sadly, 1-0 to Angers. I do think that this is a very good move for Russell-Rowe. I said this last week, and I will keep on saying it. I think that if he has a strong start in Ligue 1, we could genuinely see him, I think, maybe making that call for the World Cup, especially if form for certain other strikers don't improve and his really picks up. I do think that there is still that slight glimmer of hope for Jacen Russell-Rowe to get that World Cup call and could potentially be on the plane. But time will tell. Definitely very good that he's pretty much immediately thrust into the action here. So that's very good. And yeah, hopefully he starts to start games and starts to make an impact and all the things that you would want as a striker at a new club. Elsewhere in Italy, Cone Sassuolo lost 5-0 to Inter. Not a great day for Sassuolo. Cone, though, was one of the bright spots. A lot of Sassuolo fans were pretty happy with his performance. So, hey, at least he stood out in a 5-0 loss as well. He stands out when they're good, stands out when they're bad. The one constant is Ishmael Kone is going to stand out, so that's good to know. And in Italy, Jonathan David and Juve rescued a draw with final 10 seconds against Lazio to make it 2-2. Jonathan David wasn't involved in the goals, but of course, definitely very good for David and Juve as they continue that European push and want to return to Champions League. And then wrapping up this performance-based one, Alphonso Davies played 80 minutes in a 5-1 win versus Hoffenheim. This is another back-to-back-to-back start for Alphonso Davies, so definitely being integrated into this Bayern lineup, looking very good, playing at left back as well. Maybe Canada should follow suit and continue to play him at left back, but, you know, what do I know? But yeah, he looked quite good against Hoffenheim again. And yeah, just very good to see him getting these minutes, getting these reps in, hopefully knocking on wood that he can stay healthy for the remainder of the season. We will need him coming into this World Cup. So yeah, very much hopeful that Alphonso Davies can stay healthy and continue these good performances that he is racking up with Bayern at the moment. Man, oh man, production today has not been on my side. This is my third time recording this segment of this. The first time, my camera fell and broke because I kicked the wire by mistake underneath me. But don't worry, I have fixed the camera because I'm a great repairman. Second time, my mic unplugged midway through talking about it. No, this is my fourth time recording this bit because then this one that I just recorded, my camera wasn't recording. So fourth time is the charm for this segment. But now that I've kind of let you in on a little bit behind the scenes, let's let you in a little bit on Pro Footy return to Canada this calendar year by way of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, by way of Forge FC and Vancouver FC. We'll start with Vancouver FC, who took on the defending champs of the Champions Cup in Cruz Azul. They, of course, did lose 3-0, but I do think we'll look on the positives a little bit here. I think that there is some things for the Vancouver fans to be excited about now, having seen this game going into the CPL season in a couple of months, because for that first half hour, I actually thought Vancouver was doing pretty well and was pretty in the game. I thought some big players were stepping up for them. Callum Irving made some good saves. Mateo Campagna and Tom Field making his Vancouver FC debut looked good. Tyler Crawford, Perigi, Donaire, and Ba all also really contributing, both going forward and going back. So I think that is pretty good. And honestly, even the goals that Vancouver FC conceded, the third one, yeah, it was a great goal. Let's just be real. It was Cruz Azul showing off why they're the defending champs. It was a greatly worked goal. The way they manipulated the ball and the play and just kind of pass it around Vancouver and then basically end up almost passing it into the back of the net with how easily they worked the ball. It was very nice. But for the other two goals, I actually do think Vancouver is going to look and go, you know what, we actually probably could have done better there. First goal, bobbles around the box a little bit, following a deflection. Cruz Azul are the most alert, tapping in to basically what is an empty net. And then the second goal, as much as I sing his praises, as you know if you've listened to the podcast, I'm a big fan of Callum Irving. In my opinion, one of the best goalkeepers in the CPL. But I do think that he's probably going to want that second goal back. I'm no goalkeeper. As you can tell, I'm not the tallest nor the biggest, and I host a podcast instead of playing as a goalkeeper. But he just kind of parries the ball out right to a Cruz Azul player, and then Cruz Azul player hits the rebound in. And I think that as a goalkeeper, especially such an experienced one like Callum Irving, he's probably going to look and go, I probably could have maybe done a little bit better on that one. And, you know, that's going to happen, right? And especially if Vancouver FC was maybe playing someone lesser than a Cruz Azul, maybe they aren't punished in those moments. But when you're playing someone of Cruz Azul's quality, I mean, they're the defending champs, you know, so they do have quality. When you're playing someone of that quality, they're going to make you pay in those moments. Any little mistake, they are going to capitalize on. Whereas maybe if Vancouver FC was playing someone not Cruz Azul, maybe they don't get punished in those ways. And maybe we're only looking at this as a 1-0 defeat, or even, you know, who knows, maybe a 1-1 draw, or Vancouver wins it, you know. It was always going to be an uphill battle, though. Vancouver FC making their CONCACAF Champions Cup debut. So especially against the defending champs, it's never an easy task, but I do think that playing against one of, if not the best teams in the region, only helps Vancouver FC and helps them improve and helps them gain confidence and get hungrier. Even though this was a loss, I do think that you look and you take things away of like, you know what? Like, this makes us hungrier. We want to get back to Champions Cup next season. We want to get back into those moments of the Can Champ final, the CPL playoffs, make a playoff, but make a league title push. All these things, I think that you look and you go, okay, I think that there is positives to take away from these two legs. I know they've only played one leg as of recording, but I think that over the next game as well, I think there will be things to take away from it. And yeah, I think that although it was a loss, I do think that there are still things to be happy about and be proud of and to look forward to as a Vancouver FC fan heading into the CPL season. And finally, wrapping this up with Forge's return. As you can tell, we wrap the hammer because I am, of course, from Hamilton. But yeah, cold night. It was freezing. I was at the game against Tigres. It was freezing. It was cold. I couldn't feel my toes come the end of it. But it was worth it because we saw Forge go toe-to-toe with one of the best at CONCACAF in Tigres, and it ended up being a 0-0 draw. And I think that is a very good result for Forge to take back to Tigres. There is hope here that Forge could pull off an upset in Tigres. I do think maybe a long shot. Tigres are a very good side, and especially in CONCACAF, they tend to thrive, and the weather will not be as cold and will be more optimal. But regardless, Forge, at least still there is that hope going into the second leg of, maybe we get an early goal, because any type of draw greater than 0-0 takes Forge through. That's not me saying play for the draw, because I think that is a mistake. But regardless, the team is going to do what the team's going to do. But talking about this game, though, some huge performances from a lot of the guys in orange for Forge. Bortu, the goalkeeper for Forge, making his debut. This has got to be one of the best Forge debuts I've seen ever, maybe. It's definitely up there. He made some insane stops, some great stops. He made some of them look easy too, and let me tell you, I don't think they were easy ones to save, but he looked very good. If this is any indication to come for the season ahead for him, he will be a goalkeeper to watch this season. Just some huge saves, a couple on Flores, a couple on Ginac. He was just saving everything. I thought his distribution looked top-notch as well. Basically, every ball he kicked found a guy in orange, which is absurd when you think about it. But yeah, just a top-class debut from him. And then the defense for Forge as well looked top class. Another debut from Antoine Baptiste. I thought, once again, he looked good too, as you would expect. Of course, he's more naturally a more holding midfielder, but circumstances make him drop back to center back in this game. Dan Nimick continued on his great run that he's been on since joining Forge. And if I'm, maybe an MLS side, I think I'm kicking tires on Dan Nimick. He is quite good, and I think he could definitely do a job in the MLS. But of course, we'll see. We'll see. And then the fullbacks for Forge, I also thought were two standouts: Jevremovic and Rezat Rama, both playing what I thought were probably their best games in a Forge kit. I thought Rama was great going forward, locked down the defense as well. Really kept, in my opinion, I thought he kept Flores quite quiet in that first half, and then Flores switched flanks, where I thought he was pretty well dealt with in the second half as well. Don't get me wrong, he did find his joy as well. There were times where he did get around players, but that's to be expected. And then, of course, Bortu said, "You're not getting past me, pal," and then would save a shot. So yeah, I thought Rama and Jevremovic both were great, and Ben Payton as well. Shout out former Maple Footy interview Ben Payton. I thought this was his best performance in a Forge shirt as well. He looked great, in my opinion. Kind of almost playing as a midfielder when Forge were in possession, then when Forge were out of possession, almost playing as a left back, as Jevremovic would kind of push into play almost as a third center back, and Payton would drop and play the left back role. He also had to deal a lot with Flores on the defense, and I thought he dealt with him quite well. Ben Payton looked really, really good. If this is any indication for the season to come for Ben Payton, you look and you go, I don't see how he doesn't start for Forge more this season than he did last season. Last season, I thought he impressed with Forge. This game, of course, the season only just started, but this game looked very, very good. So, yeah, I think that Forge need to implement Ben Payton maybe in this type of role more, or maybe just as a midfielder. He didn't play a whole ton as a midfielder last season. I think if you play him in the midfield, he's going to look really good, as he did here when they were in possession. He looked so good. He was, in my opinion, one of the best for Forge on the night. My worry for Forge has been, for the last year and a bit, is scoring goals. They never really looked threatening. The only time where they really looked threatening was when Jevremovic linked up with Rezart Rama, and Rama the fact they even got on the end of the ball was crazy, but that was really their only real chance. There was a half chance where in the first half where Rama put the ball in for Ben Payton as well, but he was never scoring from that angle. It was more so like a hopeful kick and hope that maybe someone gets onto the end of it. But outside of that, Forge just looked out of ideas creatively and on the attack, which isn't good when you're going to need a goal in the second leg. And then, of course, going into this season, you're going to need to score. It was one of their issues last season, in my opinion, and ended up costing them in the playoffs as well. So I think that going forward, Forge really needs to sort it out going forward. But yeah, on the attack, they really need to figure it out if they really want to push Tigres in this second leg and maybe pull off a huge upset in CONCACAF. And even looking forward to the CPL season, we'll need to really sort those issues out and really figure out what they're doing in an attacking sense. But defensively, Forge looks like a greatly set up team, especially with this Jevremovic, Rama, Payton, Nimic, Batiste system that they got going on. So yeah, I thought defensively they looked unreal, but yeah, hopefully going forward they can sort it out. But that does bring to an end this episode of the Maple Footy Podcast. I do hope you enjoyed it. I do appreciate you listening if you made it the whole way through. If you are a fan of just the audio of the podcast, I do link them all down in the description of where you can find them. You know, whether you like Apple, Spotify, or wherever else you get them, it's all down there. If you want to follow us on Instagram as well, also down there. Maybe drop a subscribe and a like if you feel so inclined to do so. But outside of that, more Maple Footy, of course, will be coming thick and fast. This Friday, we're dropping a really fun one that I've been working on for a month now, maybe. It's about a month. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and really looking forward to getting to share it. It is something to do with the 2022 World Cup. Follow along on the socials to see me tease a little bit more about that. But yeah, really looking forward to that, and I hope that you will end up watching that one or listening to it. But yeah, outside of that, thank you so much for listening. I do hope you enjoyed, and until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.